Hello and welcome to Beyond the Scale, Weight Loss and Wellness. I'm your host, Coach Monica. I'm joined today by Coach Darcy, and we are here to guide you through the ins and outs of a lifestyle that's transformed not just our lives, but the lives of countless women navigating the waves of perimenopause and menopause. Whether you're here to shed weight, understand your body better, or simply find a community that gets it, you're in the right place. So sit back and enjoy the next few minutes as we tackle the hot issues of today. Good morning and welcome to an amazing day. Amazing day, amazing podcast, amazing life. I love it. How are you doing, Coach?
Great. We have high hopes.
We have high hopes for internet
for this,
working.
Yes. Podcast
recording.
Information. I'm excited about this topic that we're going into because we're in the mud right now in this world. So
yeah, we're in the mud. And people are so tired of diets, and we believe in talking about the things that people don't want to talk about. And we'll talk about anything. You give us a topic, we're going to talk about it. But we're going to be honest. I don't know if you watch my Facebook or if you follow my social media at all, but we are really in a situation that it's not cool to talk about things that are going on in the media or that are going on, in the big pharma world, because I'm watching all of my health coaching, addiction specialists really wrestle with a hard topic of GLP-1 medication. They're wrestling with it not because of what they believe, but because of the financial situation that we're being put through right now. Because everyone wants a shortcut. Everyone wants to take the easy path. And even my addiction colleagues, I'm finding, are having to decide, how are we going to put the GLP-1 conversation into our practice? And so I started to, I'm the CEO of KM Health Coaching. I have payroll to make. I have, responsibilities on the financial side of my practice. And so I'm listening to these conversations and I'm listening to these topics, and how are we going to put GLP-1 in our practice, and how are we going to make it so that it's easier for food addicts to be free of food addiction with a GLP-1? And I'm like, all right, I'm listening. How are we going to put this in here? How are we going to incorporate GLP-1 in our practice? I can't do it, Coach. I can't do it. Now, am I going to create a recovery program because of the women and the men who choose this route, who are gaining weight back in rapid pace? Of course, I'm going to put a recovery program together, but I can't go there and tell you that GLP-1 is going to fix food addiction. That's what we're talking about today. Right. I can't tell you that because it's a lie. I can't in good conscience. Now, does that make me sink back in the financial responsibilities of my company? Yeah, it does. Because we're not the cool kids on the block and we can't offer, GLP-1 will fix your food addiction. We can't.
We're not selling our souls. Sorry.
I can't do it.
We can't sell our souls.
Yeah.
We know too much.
I tried. And am I going to change my mind in the future? I could possibly change my mind. I can't. I've tried to change my mind, and I've tried to be like, okay, yeah, you're right. Because when you take a GLP-1, you lose the food cravings. Well, that helps nice. Addiction, right?
Yeah, that's nice.
Darcy, what's wrong with that statement? GLP-1 fixes your food noise. Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it does. But there's other things that can fix the food noise too that we've learned.
Well, yeah.
Naturally.
And for long term.
And cheaper.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Speaking of cheaper, my food addiction treatment program is not. It's not cheap. It's not cheap.
Up front, no.
If you want us, now I did make it a little more affordable because I broke it down into 3 months. But if you're in my 18-month program, you're going to drop about $5,000, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's a lot. Well, if you take how much these people are paying for a GLP-1 at $1,000 to $1,800 a month, we're talking
For life?
for life, for the rest of your life.
We
Either
did we
drop,
did the calculations of that.
yeah, drop
We did that.
5 grand one time,
Yeah.
or drop, 12 grand for the rest of your life,
So
right?
initially what you're saying is that in the long haul, we are probably the cheaper way, and we're teaching
Cost
people how to
effective.
fish so
Yes.
that you are not gonna
Yeah.
starve to death.
It is the cost effective way.
It
And
is.
GLP-1 does not fix addiction. It does not, because you trade one addiction for another. Because if you depend on a GLP-1 for your food addiction and you're not addressing the root of why you have a food addiction, uh, the minute you go off of it, you're right back to being an addict.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is what it is. And, I made a decision last weekend that I have to speak out against, and I have to speak out in support of people who want to be free for life.
Mhm.
And I can't just follow the crowd when it comes to the health coaching. I can't. I
You
tried. I really did. I
it
tried.
kinda comes down to, um, the whole idea of convenience.
Yeah.
People don't wanna know about the science. We know a
Mm,
lot about the science. I don't like to talk about the science because there's a lot to it,
yeah.
but I know the science behind it, and people honestly just frankly don't care,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately, which
Yeah.
kinda leads us into our topic of, because we were talking about, our program, and we're
Mm-hmm.
talking about the steps. Last podcast we had,
Yeah.
we talked about step 1, and that is acknowledging, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
Okay. I just had to
Admitting.
make sure.
Admitting. Step
Admitting,
one. Yeah.
admitting, not acknowledge. And then this step 2 that we're talking about is now going into, um, is that acknowledging? I should know this better because we do this all the time.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, well,
and
it's admitting that we're helpless. We can't do it without
yes,
the help of a higher power.
yes, right.
And yeah, so we bring in the steps because if we don't, do you hear what's happening in the background?
I don't. I
When you
have.
own
Uh,
Great Danes, there is nothing in your life that you do on a
it's
minute
it's
or
not softly done.
delicate aspect, include getting a drink of water. And of course, during a podcast,
It's the time.
that is when it's time for these Danes to get a drink of water. So I apologize for the background noise. That's all I
I
hear is
honestly don't
slurp,
hear it.
slurp. I'm
It
glad.
could be, I don't know. I could not.
Well, we do the 12 steps because we believe that not only is abstinence the answer for food addiction, and we're going to talk about how we spot an impending relapse in a client. We know when we meet with our clients, and we meet with our food addiction clients every week, when we see a food addiction, when we see a relapse about to happen, we know about 2 or 3 meetings before it happens because of what we're going to talk about today.
Yes.
But if that client is not willing to do the hard thing and do the 12 steps, and let me tell you, there's a lot of spiritual implications and spiritual applications that go into the 12 step, because it's similar to the Alcoholics Anonymous, right?
Yeah. Right.
You don't have to be a Christian, you don't have to be a certain faith in order to follow these steps to be changed.
Mhm.
Now, we personally believe, in Almighty God, and we believe that we can't do anything without his help. And so we have our personal beliefs. Everybody does that comes to
Right.
group. But if we don't do the steps in order, if we don't do the abstinence, if we have a client who is not abstinent and doing the 12 steps, we won't even work with them. It does
Right.
not work. The 12 steps do not work unless you're abstinent,
Right.
right?
As you know, as long as you, to go back to, if they're not believers of
Mhm.
Jesus or of God, they have to have some sort of acknowledge that there's something greater than themselves
Right.
that
Right.
gives them that power.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. A big
so
deal.
that's just kind of a side note.
Yeah. It's a big deal. And
It
it
is.
it works.
Mhm.
This works. And then when we bring in the GLP-1 factor and when we put them on this food plan. Now food plan, I put in air quotes. If you're on a podcast and you're seeing me, I'm doing air quotes for a food plan, because food plans, menus, that kind of thing does not work. It doesn't work for dieting, it doesn't work for anything but a nice little recipe holder, right?
Mhm.
But the food plan that we put our addicts on gives them this the freedom and the space to create their own, but it is an abstinence plan. So you combine the abstinence plan that we load with protein and high fat. We load that thing with, I mean, we're talking in between each meal we do L-glutamine and we do coconut oil and we bring up that GLP-1 so high that you wouldn't know the difference between the shot and, and the GLP-1 that we use. So with those two things combining, you're able to give yourself enough relief because you're not feeling hungry. We're removing the sugar and the trigger foods. We're removing all of those things. We're taking you to square one. And then you have time to work on the emotional side. Then you have time. But what we want to talk about today are our top 5 ways as coaches to spot an impending relapse. And again, we can tell. I can seek out Coach Darcy, who's our macro coach, will text me in the middle of a Tuesday and say, this particular thing is on this client's macros, and I can guarantee you the next meeting we have had an ultimate relapse and a potential binge.
Yes.
We can see it
Y
coming.
God bless me with the, birth order of being the youngest in the family, so I'm a great tattletale.
You
That's what
are.
it boils
Y-
down to.
You are a complete tattletale, and I love every minute of it. And I've had clients complain to me like, "Hey, why does she have to do that?" I'm like, "Because I would fire her if she didn't. She's doing her job. That's why
I
you hired
have the
us."
gift of having 0 filter,
Uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
I will tell it like it is.
Yeah. Yeah. I know it.
So, there's
So
that.
let's start with number one.
Yeah.
Top 5 ways. We've got a client who and let me just tell you up front, there's no time frame on this. We could and typically we have a client who is able to stay clean for 3 months, and they're on a high. They are on an ultimate high. They're losing weight. They're becoming free, and then whammo, right
Yeah.
out of it. So there is no time frame on when this happens.
Mhm.
You could be 7 years into your sobriety and this happened. So we can spot them. I'll go ahead and start with one. They start getting vague or dodgy. This is this is the one that irritates me, honestly,
Mhm.
because I'm a tell it as it is coach, and you don't hire me if you want a feel good coach. You don't want to hire this coach. I won't speak for Darcy, but probably her too. If you don't want change, if you don't want to go back to your old ways. And so this starts to happen. They clam up, they dodge details about their eating, like, oh, I'm good. I'm good. Everything's good. Everything's fine. Isn't there a cartoon like that? I'm fine. I'm fine. Everything's fine.
I
I
think that's a
think there is.
meme.
It might be a meme. It could be.
It's probably a TikTok from Terrence.
Yeah. Terrence. Bless Terrence's heart.
That's
Yes. I love Terrence. I don't agree with the way he eats, but I love him.
no, no.
But but clients will clam up and they start to leave out parts of their story. So when we meet with a client every week, we talk about where did you go this week? What did you do? Did you have any emotional eating? Did you have any triggers? Did the red dog start to speak to you this week? Did you have support? We go into the details of their weekly lives, and then we look forward to next week. What do you got going on? When they clam up and say, "Oh, everything was great. Everything was great." And the ones that, because sometimes when you get ready for a relapse, their scale is still falling. And so if their scale is still falling, they clam up even more because the scale fell. So they're happy. They don't want to talk about the dark side of things. It's sometimes they don't even know it's getting ready to happen. Sometimes they don't even know that they're in a warning lane for a relapse. And so we have them at the beginning of their journey with us. We have them fill out a relapse prevention plan because we know ourselves. We know when we're getting ready to go into a dark hole. We know this ahead of time. And so the relapse prevention plan, this one is one that bites people in the butt. It really does. Let me say that word. It bites
Ye
people because they don't want to talk. They don't want to
right.
talk. They just get vague, they get dodgy. Oh, I don't want to talk about that. Or that's not important. Or, that was just a church potluck and so, it's okay. They get vague or dodgy. Antennas go up. And you better believe we're taking notes on you. When we're meeting with you, you better believe I've got side notes going on of
Yeah,
when this warning sign, and we don't necessarily tell you at that point. We don't
right.
necessarily tell you. Those are side notes for the clients, for the coaches to see. Warning sign, client is getting dodgy with us, right?
Yeah. It's
What's the
funny that
second
you say
thing?
that. I was just gonna say it's funny that you say that because I think my clients that are very observant, they know when I'm writing things down. They're
They
like, "Oh,
watch
you're
you
writing
write.
things down. Okay."
Oh, am I going to
So,
see that writing?
maybe. So, after this first
I
step
love
that
the
Monica
sixth one.
talked about, this one is by golly, when that honeymoon phase is over and then start to like make you stutter and stumble and you start to lose sight, and then the stress in the real world actually slips in because I find it a very common thing where a client's able to maintain and control their chaos for about 3 months
Mhm.
because they're doing something. They're changing their life. And then once it hits and they trip and they stumble and then there's so many other things that come about, that chaos, anxiety, over the top positivity, and they begin to mask what's actually brewing and what's
Yeah.
happening. And then they get so overwhelmed that they forget what they're to be doing,
Mhm.
and that comes in with like starting to forget to track a day,
Mhm.
or they start to say, "Oh, I didn't have time for to eat, and I had only the only thing that
Yeah.
was available to me."
Yeah.
And so,
Old habits start
old,
creeping in.
yes,
Yeah.
but that's step 3.
That's okay. Keep going.
Okay.
I got your back.
All
Keep
right.
going.
So
So they go back
so
to their old habits.
they go back to their old habits because they've let their guard down. That 3 month of glory
Yeah.
of honeymoon phase is now over,
Mhm.
and they've let the chaos start to slip in, and it starts to becoming overwhelming because
Yeah.
initially they forgot what they should have been doing at the very beginning.
Mhm.
And we can touch back on what that is. We won't cover that, um, but
The
then they start to
just
reach.
one bite starts to
Yeah,
creep
then they
in.
start to reach for those one bites of like, "Well, this
Mhm.
isn't gonna hurt me." Like I'm losing weight right now,
Mhm.
and this one bite of what I love is not gonna hurt.
Yeah.
But lo and behold,
Yeah.
it kinda does. That's the start
Yeah.
of it. You just entered in that new, um that neural pathway that has been created, that
Yeah.
pathway that loves chocolate, in
Yeah.
fact, and it
And
just triggered that, like, it reopened that pathway right back up and saying,
yeah.
"Oh, I remember how good this was."
Yeah. Now they don't. Here's something with our food addicts. They don't go from being on our meal plan to getting a chocolate chip cookie. There's
Right.
not that big of a jump. What they do is they'll go from our food plan, which is nothing sweet to the mouth, which is
Yeah.
complete abstinence, to a keto cookie, to sweet yogurt,
Mhm.
to an apple. You know, so there's a middle ground, there's a middle bridge that helps them jump from abstinence to relapse.
Yeah.
Not a chocolate chip cookie, not ice cream. Sometimes.
Right.
Sometimes it's just a bold-faced rebellion
I
and
I would like to share mine, my
yes.
story,
Oh, please.
because and I might have shared this last week, but I feel like it's very valid based on how people say, "Oh, I'm not a food addict." That's
Uh-huh.
ridiculous. People don't even admit that they have a problem with carbs or sugars, but
Mhm.
they're obese for a reason. It's not just because every food is just hates them and they store the fat. That's not how it works. Um, and when I first started the program, I didn't even admit to being an emotional eater. I just
Mhm.
had the bad genes of being overweight. I had life get in the way of my upbringing, and
Mhm.
after going to college and gaining and then having kids and gaining, and just it never came back off, and not really understanding what I needed to be doing. I was not an emotional eater until then. I was like, "You know what? Actually, I think I was." As I look back to when I was being a young mom with 2 babies in the house and eating sugar when they go to bed, binge eating sugar, like that's stress,
Yeah.
and I'm stress eating, that's an
Stress
emotional
eating.
eating.
Right.
Um, and I thought I had that taken care of when I started the program because I was focused. Like, I'm gonna
Mhm.
get rid of this. I'm gonna get rid of this weight because I said that I was going to. I
Mhm.
don't want to go back. I loved how keto made me feel. I loved experimenting with all the keto treats.
Mhm.
I loved experimenting with, the old recipes that I used to make and making them clean. I loved that. And then I got to the point after 4 years, I'm going on what, 6 or
Yeah. Yeah, I
6
think we
years
are.
of being, living this lifestyle.
Mhm.
um, I would say last year I had an epiphany of, like, when you told me to join in the addictions just to learn,
Yeah.
and I was doing the work, I was, like, going back in my days, I'm looking at my keto world saying, "I couldn't just have one of anything." If
No.
I made any keto sweets, if I went to Baked by Vi, which is over in Indiana
Yeah.
up north, like,
Shout
that
out,
she
Baked by
shout
Vi.
out shout out to Baked by Vi.
Speaking
Wait,
of which, she just switched to DoorDash.
did she really?
Yes. Thank you. Yeah, it could be Baked by Vi.
It could be Baked by Vi.
Totally.
So, just, like, whatever it was, and since I'm, like, 2 hours away from there, I would store up, like, I would ta buy every one of everything that she had, saying, "Oh, I'll save it for
Save it.
I'll freeze it." I never froze that because while I'm sitting in my desk,
Mhm.
I'm thinking about all those keto sweets in the fridge and
Keto.
thinking, "Oh, they're gonna go bad.
Yeah.
I need to."
You
And
just spent
so
$80 there.
I spent $80 and I wanted to go bad, and I was like, "Oh, I need to save it for Mark."
Yeah.
And by golly, he didn't eat it for some dumb reason. I don't know why he could just not eat it. So there's the difference
Seems
of a
weird.
food addict versus a non-food addict
Uh-huh.
being able to let something sit in the refrigerator and not eat it versus I'm thinking about it all the time. That is a keto sweet.
Yeah.
That is healthy. And
Yeah.
I had to justify that I'm actually a food addict. I
Yeah.
cannot just have one.
Have you learned and studied how to kill a frog? Have you ever done that? Have you ever
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. If you want to kill a frog, you don't kill a frog by throwing him in a pot of boiling water. Now, if you want to kill a frog, please message us because there's probably, unless you're going to
The
eat it and
PETA might get after you.
yeah, I'm not
Unless you
sure
eat
why
it,
you'd want to do that. But
because
if you
people
want
eat
to,
frogs.
yeah, you're not going to throw it in a pot of boiling water. You're going to throw him in a pot of cool water and you're going to turn up the temperature little by little. And that is what happens when our food addicts throw and old habits creep back in. They're turning it up, turning it up. So as Darcy's looking at your macros, she's like, hey, you're eating a lot of baked by Vi this week. Are we sure that this is something that we want to have in our lifestyle, specifically to
Right.
our food addicts, right?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, there's a banana in here. And you remember my apple story from
Yes.
last 2 summers ago, right?
Yep.
Old habits start to creep in, but they don't creep in
And they're
with
not all
a
yeah,
piece of cake.
they're not all the same.
Right.
Um, as a macro coach, like you were just saying, I
Mhm.
see what people prefer,
Yeah.
what they crave.
Yeah.
And when I see a repeat every single day
Yeah.
and they have to fit it in there, and even though they're over on their macros, they're still
Yeah.
gonna fit it in there. That is a red flag. That is
Yeah.
why do you need this?
Right.
Is there something that you're missing? Like, why
Yeah.
are you continuing to eat this? So then that's when I go tattle on them and
Yeah.
say, "Hey, coach, just a red
Yeah.
flag here."
Right.
They
Yeah.
and it can be something that's very keto.
Yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
thing. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't matter if it's healthy or
Yeah.
not
It could be
healthy.
volume.
I
Volume eating
Yes,
addiction is a real thing.
it
It
is.
was for me.
I couldn't stop at one piece of broccoli. I'd have to
Yeah.
eat near the whole bag.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Totally.
it just
That's
so
real.
that red flag is real.
It is
Um
real. Yeah.
so don't count yourself as safe. Just saying.
No. No. As a food addict, I'm never safe because my old habits, because I have Red Dog that lives in my brain and Red Dog is my addict brain. He doesn't never go away. he doesn't ever take a vacation, he doesn't take a break, he's always there. And so you can't let your foot off of the gas pedal if you struggle with food, sugar, carbohydrate, processed food addiction, right?
Yes.
The next thing is a big one. Big feelings. So as we coach people, we have there's an automatic sense of, I mean, there's just a process. There is normal feelings in a coaching session, and sometimes, as things come up, sometimes those things are normal. But big feelings start to happen. The emotional roller coaster kicks in. So old habits are coming back, and then emotional roller coaster starts to become in play, where big feelings, stress, drama, fake cheerfulness, um perhaps sickness, perhaps um the big feelings start to drive the conversation. I always know when this happens, when the client talks over me, when they over exaggerate what happened, when they want to tell me the plan for next week. The big feelings start to bubble up and I lose control over that session. I know that is a signal that a relapse is coming. And you're like, "Coach, that sounds absolutely crazy." It's not. It is a
It's not.
pattern that when we lose control over a session and the big feelings and the drama and everything starts to just exaggerate itself, we know that that is a step towards a relapse. And typically, it's probably within a couple of weeks after those big feelings start to happen.
Yeah.
Stress, drama, and that's not to say that the stress is not happening at home, but we start to focus on that, and we start to lose control over our feelings of control and of abstinence, and those big feelings start to come in and they start to take over. When that happens, we coaches have been trained how to get back control over that conversation. Because now you're like, "Well, Monica, that doesn't even make sense. You mean you don't let your clients talk during your sessions?" Absolutely, right? It's when the big feelings start to happen. It's when it's when they start to say, "You know what? I don't think I want to do this plan. I want to do this plan." This is a big one for me. "Monica, I don't think I belong in your addictions program. I think I belong over here. Let's focus on weight loss. Let's focus on, because we don't focus on weight loss in our addictions program because it happens automatically. But when we have a client start to take control and say, I don't think I need to be in this program, I need to be in that program," and they start to tell us, we're like, "Okay, we've got a relapse coming within a couple of weeks."
Mhm.
That
Yeah.
sounds that probably is something that only other health coaches might be able to put their finger on and like, "I know what she's talking about there."
Well, they also go, which I have nothing against collecting resources. I
Mhm.
love collecting
Yes.
resources from other people,
Yes.
but they get so distracted
Yes.
by all of the information out there that they
Mhm.
start to forget that they hired a coach
Yeah.
to guide them along that would be perfect for them,
Yep.
and that we have already done most of that research for
Yep.
them to kind of say, and if there is a book that we've read that we're like,
Mhm.
"Hey, we read this," like this book right here I'm about to read, um,
Mhm.
but there's this book that would be really beneficial for you to read. We love having our clients read Atomic Habits.
Yeah.
Like, we love sending resources to them that would be beneficial for them, but then
Mhm.
there's other
Yeah.
resources out there, like the intuition eating coaches. Those are not for you.
No. No.
Those are, and don't listen to them, but they are listening, and then they bring us all this information
Oh my.
like we don't know.
Yeah.
So, it's when a client is over knowledging, I don't think that's a word, over
Over
knowledging themselves,
acknowledging. Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I know what you
over
mean.
educating
Yeah.
themselves
Overwhelmed
with
with
different
education. Mhm.
resources that are not beneficial for their
Yeah.
health style change.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so true. Overeducation is a killer for our clients because it's like looking for the next shiny object.
Yeah.
And it happens in the addiction world, and I am to the point I'm going to start speaking out against the sponsorship. Uh because it is not. it has hurt so many of my clients because I've had clients go from one sponsor to the next to the next. And then these sponsors get inside the nutrition part and confuse our clients and send them into a massive binge. I
Yeah.
mean, I am just so passionate about, if you are going to get a sponsor, like AA, or if you're getting an OA sponsor, that sponsor has to stay out of the nutrition part if you have hired a nutritionist, because you mix that up, or you have a client say, "Oh, I'm going to go join this group instead of coming to your sessions." I've had clients ghost me before because the next shiny object of an intuitive group captures them, because who wouldn't want to eat a cookie and be an
That's the
addiction?
diet cycle, y'all.
It's a diet cycle.
It's the diet cycle.
It's a diet cycle. It means you paid me for nothing. And
It's
you're
almost an addiction to
mhm. Yeah,
that new dopamine rush of, "What does
exactly.
this person have to tell me?"
Exactly. This person can do it easier. This person is better than,
Yeah,
because abstinence is hard.
it is hard work.
Healing is hard. So when you get the big feelings involved, and you get the where the client takes over the recovery program, we've got a relapse happening within the next couple of
Mhm.
weeks.
Yeah.
You want to take the next one? Either
Yeah,
one.
so
You can go either one.
I'm just gonna go with the flow.
You do it. All right.
So, as we talk about, macro checking and the big feelings coming in and these signs starting to be happening, then that whole next level of then they start to go MIA
Mhm.
a lot. They start to
Yep.
pull away from the support. They start ghosting you, like a couple clients have done to Coach
Mhm.
Monica this week. You
Yeah.
know, ghosting the coach, or
Mhm. Ghosting meetings. I don't want to come to a
meetings,
meeting.
sessions, because they just don't feel, they're not feeling it.
Yeah.
So they don't want to, they're too busy, or that's where that chaos excuse
Yep.
comes in, where, oh, I've got too much on my plate, I can't show up.
Yeah. I'm not
But
in the
what you're,
mood. I'm not in the mood to
yeah,
come to group tonight. Yeah.
yeah. And it's one of those things where we can reach out to the
Mhm.
clients and say, hey, where you at?
Yeah.
And we can be doing that every single week.
Yeah.
And until they take the responsibility
Yeah.
of putting themselves first and saying, this is necessary, even though it's hard to fit
Yeah.
it in my schedule, I'm willing to show up.
Yeah.
Those are the successful clients that when they show up, even if we have not much to talk about because they're just living life and they're doing the things,
Yeah.
they still show up. But when they start to pull away, that's a red flag that we're
Yeah.
about to lose them.
Yep. Yep. And we require our addictions clients to check in at least once, twice a day with group. And the ones who don't do that, it usually they're pulled away from group first, and they don't come to group, and they don't say, just for today, I'm going to remain abstinent. That's the first sign. Second sign is they cancel a session with their coach. Third sign is when they don't come to group meeting, and when
Mhm.
they just don't feel like coming to group, we know we've lost them and they are headed for a big relapse.
Yeah. And
And
it
that's the
also begins
saddest
in the
one for us.
tracking where because we
Yes.
have our clients
Yes.
track, and when they stop tracking,
Yep.
one
We
day,
do.
maybe on the weekends is the first start, this
Mhm.
first showing, like, oh, well, you did great during the week, you were focused, and then you just dropped the ball
Yeah.
on the weekends. And then they start back up on Monday. And then that same thing happens again, but
Mhm.
then another week part of during the week starts to
Yeah.
add in. And then there's just none. So this isn't just one in particular client. This
Mhm.
is exactly what we're talking about. We've
Yeah,
seen
it's a
it.
pattern.
It's a
Yeah.
pattern. We see it all the time,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
Yep.
Um,
Every
and it's
week.
so easy to give up the tracking because it's a
Mhm.
hard, annoying job to
Yeah.
do.
And
Um,
you can't get that back easily, for
no,
sure.
you can't.
Yeah.
So,
The
and
fifth
that's
step,
where
oh, sorry.
I was like, that's where the fifth step
Fifth
comes
step,
in. Yeah.
excuses and rationalizing. I earned it this week. It was my birthday this week. Oh, it's no big deal. It's just group that I missed. It's just a meeting that I missed. They don't cancel their meetings with us one on one, because those are the real expensive parts of the therapy. It's, you know when you meet with us, that's the most expensive part, right?
Mhm.
it's group that they start to miss out first. It is the tracking. It's they're bargaining with the relapse. They're bargaining with, okay, it's no big deal that I missed that group. You guys just talk about the same old thing, you know. Oh, I can go read step 4 in my book. It's no big deal. Oh, I didn't feel good. Oh, I had a headache. We've heard all of the excuses, right? We've heard them all. When you start giving excuses, we know that's one of the final steps to a massive relapse. And pretty much we can guarantee within a week you're going to have had a binge of 5 sleeves of cookies. It's just going to happen. I mean, that's just, it's really sad. It's really, really sad. And sometimes it's hard for me to understand because we see them doing so well and we see them thriving, and then boom, they're taken out.
Yep.
And it is really hard. People ask, why do you charge so much for therapy, for the addiction therapy? It's because we work our backsides off. We get in the pits, and it is exhausting.
Yes.
Monday nights, there's nothing left in me. Nothing left. I don't even know what I said last night. I don't even know what day it is
You
today.
said you said monkey brains last
Monkey brains. That's what I said.
Uh,
Addiction coaching is exhausting
yeah.
because we hate to see these 5 things. We hate it. It
Yeah.
breaks our hearts, right? It just absolutely breaks our hearts. So let's talk about how we call them out. We just got a few minutes left. How we call them out. How do we coach them? Number 1, we're not intuitive. We're not feel good coaches
Mm-mm.
because we want you to be as free as we are right now. We have been where you are. We are food addicts ourselves. We've been there. And so we have to put things in this practice that sets us apart from the feel good TikTok coaches, right? We call it out. We do it gently. There are times that we're tougher in sessions, like, what were you thinking? Um, or, hey, you've been quiet. Is everything okay? What's going on? Tell me just a little bit more. Tell me your feelings behind that.
Mhm.
Tell me again. And it's our goal to have them name what is going on, and get them to name the issue before they eat it, before they eat their
Mhm.
feelings. And if we can get them to come out and say, "Oh gosh," or if we can get them to see that you've got a potential relapse coming up here, that's our goal, is to call it out, right?
Mhm.
Darcy, you want to take the second one?
Yeah, and the next one would be rewinding to their why. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you got to remind them that they have a
Yeah.
why,
Right.
and what is that why? And it's easy to forget it,
Mm-hmm.
because when you're in the moment and you are losing the weight, and I believe I see this in our non-addiction clients too,
Mm-hmm.
different seasons that they're in, if they are hitting certain goals and they've been there, done that, they then forget the initial why, and
Mm-hmm.
that's where some of them then go back to the diet cycle of,
Yeah.
and they get bored, so they
Yeah.
go off in the exit ramp. But each season brings a new why.
Mm-hmm.
And so collecting those whys and building that why, the big why, to be stronger and more sturdy,
Mm-hmm.
you have to keep on reminding
Yeah.
yourself of that why. Um, and I liked the analogy that I said last night, where if you're driving from Georgia to Florida, it's that long stretch, and you just get really bored, and then you get real snacky because there's
Mm-hmm.
nothing to do um, on that road, so except for to snack. So if you have no snacks in your car, there's plenty of exit ramps. So when
Mm-hmm.
you get bored, people find those
Yeah.
exit ramps to find those snacks and to their
Yeah.
old ways and their little one bites.
Yeah.
Um, but to we reminding them of their why helps them
Yeah.
keep things lively, keep their guard up, to help them focus on why we're on this long stretch.
Yeah.
What is at the end of the long stretch? There's a beach at the long haul in
It's
Florida.
worth it.
It's
Yes.
worth it. There, you can just be able to sit there and relax and bask in the
Yeah.
sun. That
Yeah.
is your ultimate goal. But we have to remember what those whys
What those
are,
why.
and not
Yeah.
just having one why. Oh, I'm going to do it for my family.
Right.
No, like, yeah, it's great to be healthy for your family, but initially there's
Got to be for
something
you.
deeper. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And like Darcy said, a lot of these are cross therapy,
mm-hmm,
because 1 out of 3 of our regular weight loss clients are food addicts, and they just haven't seen it yet. And so a lot of these therapeutic tools that we use are cross. They're cross. From addictions to weight loss. A lot of times, even in addictions, even though the red dog's speaking really loudly and sometimes it sounds like, oh, you just want to cheat, a lot of times we deal with a lot of shame and we deal with a lot of guilt and shame. And so we forget sometimes about the crazy, amazing wins. And so sometimes I've got to stop the session after a client has come to me with a whole bunch of shame and I did this, I shouldn't have done that. But I was able to turn this down. And I'm like, and they go over that really fast and they cross over and they're like skip over them like, no, 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 no. We're going to rewind and we're going to talk about what you said back here. You said to me that you turned down this piece of cake. And maybe you might have put, maybe you licked your fingers or something, but you turned down a piece of cake. We need to celebrate that tiny win. We need to celebrate those things. And a lot of what we do is highlighting where our clients have won the battle, right?
Mhm.
All right. Darce, do you have a client at 12 o'clock today?
No, I don't.
Okay, perfect. I was
I was
wondering
just
if we had to race through this or if
I
we
was
were
just
going to
gonna
have to land the
go
plane now.
No, I was just gonna go wash the salt off my poor
Perfect.
car.
So we have
So,
time to do the last two. You want to
yeah,
take the next
absolutely.
one?
So, when you see that client distant, you pull them back in.
Yeah.
How do you pull them back in? You double down on the connection. So, inviting them for a quick check-in.
Mhm.
Even if it's not scheduled, say, "Hey, are you free to talk? Let's check in."
Mhm.
Nudge them to connect with somebody. We have a group, and I love our group.
Mhm.
Um, have them encourage them to connect with somebody in the group to encourage them, or even on the outside,
Yes.
somebody that's in your household that really wants to support you. Just having them reel you back in. Have a
Yeah.
support group. Um, you talk about what is it? Food addiction thrives in the dark and shines in the light. So keeping them
Yeah.
close and keeping and this is why the red flags are important to us because we notice those things and what you need to be
Mhm.
able to reel you back in.
Yeah.
And at the very beginning of our program, we have our clients write down, when I am distant, this is
Mhm.
what's going to reel me back in.
Yeah.
That's really important for us to know. Okay, is it going to be hard words like, hey, you've gone this far,
Mhm.
let's
Yeah.
not lose that all.
Yeah.
I like our title where our secrets make us sick. And,
Yeah.
having the clients being able to share, be open and honest with the things that they are hiding.
Yeah.
It's like, bringing the things that are in the dark into the light. Then
Yeah.
that gives you some relief and feeling like, oh, I actually feel great for sharing that.
Yeah.
I was holding these secrets in. I was binge eating at midnight and I needed to share that with people because
Yeah.
this
They're
was
full of
holding me
shame.
down.
Yeah.
It was shameful. So
Yeah.
when you are letting go of all that shame, by golly, you feel a lot lighter and you feel like, oh,
Oh
I can
yeah.
continue on.
Yeah.
But
And that's
until
step 4
you're
and 5 of the 12
it
step.
is, it is. But you have to be willing to give up the control,
Yeah.
which is a really hard thing for people to do. That's step 2.
Me.
This is step 2. When you are not willing to give up that control to a higher power, you're going to struggle.
Yeah.
You're going to stay where you are. You're going to find repeat problems. You're going to have,
Mhm.
repeat actions, and you are going to still be hidden in the darkness
Yeah.
until you are willing to let go of that control and let go of all of that junk that you've stored up. You just know that you're not going to move forward.
Mhm.
And if you do, you might be you'll probably skip a few steps and then you'll end up back
Square
revisiting step
one.
2 again.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so true. And then the last one I think can be flipped either way. You can go either way with this, but reframing the narrative. So
Mm,
a lot of people, especially like the ones who come to us with a lot of shame, they think, oh gosh, everything they do is wrong. Everything they do is, and so we have to reframe that narrative for them. And that, hey, no, 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 you're not slipping. You're choosing to make good choices, right? You're choosing to change your life. You're choosing to feed your body good things, right? You're not slipping. And if you empower yourself with those words of no, like when you're out with your friends and say, um and they offer you this piece of cake. No, I'm choosing to not put that in my body because I don't want the inflammation. It's the way you frame things. It also is when we have a client come to us who is dead set on a relapse. It's not a slipping thing. When we call it out for him, hey, you're not slipping. You are choosing. Everybody always says, how did I get to be 275 pounds? And I always say, nobody forced me to put a Twinkie in my mouth. It was a
Mm-mm.
choice. My actions and your potential heading towards a relapse, that's a choice you're making. Now, the question is, do you see that you're headed there? And that's the coach's job to say, hey, we're highlighting this potential relapse here for you. Once you choose to skip this meeting, you're choosing. You're making a choice not to come to group. You're making a choice to put that sweet in your mouth. This is a choice. Relapse is a choice, right? And so
Yeah.
you have to have the capability of flipping both of those things, especially if you live in a lot of shame. That is one of the biggest. And if you're a praying person, I know we have a lot of people who pray for our company. I don't understand why. It's just humbling to me. That's what Coach Darcy and I have to do every day when we sit, and every time before I meet with a client, I pray for them and I pray over my words, because what comes out of my mouth has the power to hurt or has the power to heal. And so
Mhm.
Coach Darcy and I have to always take this last one of reframing the narrative, and it's an actionable step. Like, it is like, I got to decide on the spot, does this client need to hear this or do they need to hear this? That's why coaching is so important. That's
Yes.
why our jobs are so important. That's why I will only hire people with my passion for this, with my mission of healing and of abstinence. Because the message and reframing the narrative comes with a lot of responsibility. It's overwhelming when
Right.
you think about it, coach.
Yeah. It's not a one size fits all box.
No.
That's for
And I
sure.
like boxes. I
Yes.
live a life of liking boxes, and
And
you
I
can't live in
like
a box.
I like to exit boxes and
Uh-huh.
push the limits and the boundaries, um, which in order to do that, especially in coaching clients, being able to really get to know them. And I think
Mhm.
that's where, yes, macros are dumb and people tracking what they eat, but you really get to know a person by
Uh-huh.
how they eat, when they eat,
Yeah.
and just their personality. And by those things, you can help them succeed. But you also can you can foresee if they are gonna really put the effort in. You can see when they're starting to do all these steps by pulling all those red flags. We can just see how those things work out.
Yeah.
Not It's kind of like going to a doctor. A doctor does not take the time to get to
Mhm.
know
Yeah.
your needs like a coach does.
Right.
Um, and you have to be able to have somebody be able to look into your soul basically and say,
Yeah.
this is what you need to empower your
Yeah.
health and to change. And
Yeah. And this
and
is
you
what the GLP-1 shots don't do.
that's what they don't.
They don't do. You're not healed. You're not fully healed when you rely on medication. Is there a place for GLP-1? There may possibly be a place for a GLP-1.
Dr.
And
Downs might have his clients on him.
Doctor
Dr.
who?
Downs. Dr. Downs.
Dr. Downs? Do I know him?
Yeah. Yeah, it's your favorite show.
Oh. Oh, yes. Dr. Now. Dr.
Now.
Now. Yes.
Dr. Downs.
I've
Sorry.
yeah, I've watched him,
Yeah.
and there could be potentially, you might have to stop the bleeding. But if
Mhm.
you do not do the therapy with a GLP-1, if you do not put yourself in a program that has the coaching, that does the hard things, and that's why a couple summers ago I had doctor put me on it, because I needed to know, what do these people feel? What is it? Because I need to coach at that level. I need to
Mhm.
go there. I need to not just be out here saying, "Oh, don't do this, don't do this." I needed to feel what they were feeling. And I did. And yeah, it shuts those cravings off. You lose weight fast, but you do not heal. If you're not willing to heal, and you're not willing to do these fight, to walk through the pit and get a little bit wounded, a little, go through these things, you're going to go through the relapse, and then that crash is going to be hard. We
Yeah.
hate to see relapse with our clients. We hate to see the binging happen. It happens because we get comfortable, we take things for granted, and, you know, we fall. We
Mhm.
fall. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jenny's totally surprised that I took the shot. I needed to feel what they feel. I needed to go through um, and understand, number one, what the side effects were. And I needed to know mentally, because if I don't know how they feel, I could not have built my program. And I needed to build a reverse diet program for the GLP-1s, because you can't eat over 800 calories.
Mm-mm.
It's just ridiculously impossible. And so I needed to put the science with that. And yep, took one for the team. But
Yeah. There's a song. It's a POD song, and that is not like anybody's genre probably, but there's a new song that's it goes like there's a at the top of every mountain, there's a bottom of another.
uh-huh.
You get it?
Yeah.
So because you
Yeah.
keep on climbing,
You
there
do.
every time you get to the top of a mountain, there's gonna be another
Yeah.
bottom of another mountain
Yeah.
to climb. So that was just what was playing in my head
Yeah,
as you were
exactly.
talking, and where we it the point is this journey is challenging. If
Yeah.
it's not challenging, then how are you growing?
Yeah.
How are you climbing the next mountain, the next
Yeah.
bit of chaos that you have in store for you? But when you have coaches that teach you tools to
Mhm.
use in every situation, being a food addict or not a food addict, I mean, if you're not willing to do it, then you're never going to change. You're going to
Yeah.
be have a fixed mindset thinking I don't need to change, or there's something easier and better for me like the GLP-1, but there's going to be a lot of struggles and
Yeah.
downfalls with the shortcuts.
Yeah.
You can't just I mean, it's just as hard to drill through a mountain just to not have to climb it, but by
Yeah.
golly, it's so worth, empowering your own journey
Yeah.
and your own health.
Yeah.
So but
Yeah.
next week, we're gonna talk a little bit about step 3 in another form of way
Yeah.
or
Perhaps. Yeah.
something of that sort.
Yeah, we really believe by hitting the risks and the by normalizing food addiction and making people uncomfortable enough to stop dieting, that's our passion. Because if
Mhm,
you take care of the root, if you take care, you're going to take care of the obesity. You're going to take care of, all of these things that have caused us so much harm. And so we're not going to sound like the podcast next door. And it's really hard because I figure as I've been watching other health coaches, I realized how much I want to be like everybody else.
I
Like,
know.
I think it would be so cool to be like everybody else and be all nicety nice and go along with the latest diet fads. And I don't like to say these things, and it'd be really cool to be a liked health coach amongst my colleagues. And I tried for a while. I'm like, yay, no, I'm not, because my passion is women who are stuck in the slavery of food addiction, of
Mhm,
men who are stuck and have been lied to for their entire lives, that this way of eating is the best. The way of eating led by big pharma and big food, that's how you get healthy. No, you don't. And I'm going to speak out against it. And thank God for doctors like Dr. Barry and Dr.
Ovadia,
What's his face?
Ovadia.
Ovadia. Thank goodness for those people who are willing to step out. If I'm feeling it as a health coach, wanting to be like the cool intuitive eating coaches, and the ones who don't like macros and want you to eat anything in the world, how much more do doctors feel the pressure of succumbing to big pharma? I mean, those guys are under mass pressure. So send Dr. Berry a note that says, Coach Monica is cheering for you, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, we are so we love to be here with you every Tuesday live. We had a really big audience today.
Yes.
I love that
I
you've
love
joined us
it.
today.
Thank you for
I love,
joining us.
yeah, I love that you've downloaded the podcast. We upload or download a new podcast every Tuesday. Today's podcast that came out is just me. You just got a little old Coach Monica. Coach Darcy's going to record one herself, but we don't have to do, 2 chats. I had this vision on Sunday night is what does a woman look like who has her hand on the numbers to her doctor for a GLP-1? What
Mm,
is going through her mind as she's picking up her phone to say, "Doc, please put me on this medication for life"? What is she feeling? What is she sensing? And how do we help reach out to this woman to give her hope? And so, if you haven't downloaded it, go to Beyond the Scale Weight Loss and Wellness with Coach Darcy and Monica, and you got little old me this week, and then this podcast will be uploaded then next week. So this will be the next one. Our secrets make us sick. So
yes,
true. We'll see you
very
next
true. Yeah.
Tuesday at 11 a.m. every Tuesday. It's been about 11:15 because of my lovely trainer who has added another 15 minutes onto our workout. Phooey on him. So about 11:15 is when we've been launching. So we didn't lose any listeners this time.
No, we'll show up
They'll show up.
about
They'll show
this
up.
time.
Exactly. You can also watch us on replay. Now, one thing you might want to note is brand new on Facebook. They only hold lives for 30 days. So I know we have a lot of listeners who save our shows so that they can listen to it at night. Just know that those are now being deleted after 30 days. Yay,
Fun.
Mark Zuckerberg, right?
Yay.
All right, guys. Yes.
I was just gonna say we were promoting our certifications of keto and
Yeah.
carnivore. So if
Yeah.
you are interested in being a coach of keto or carnivore or even both,
Yeah.
go check out what is it? KM Health Coaching
kmhealthcoaching.org. Yeah.
.org.
I think that's
Um
because of RFK.
yeah,
There is a sense
there's
that
a
people are like, I want to change lives.
yes. And the more the merrier. That's
Yeah.
why we or Monica, I say we, I'm just a part of the company. Coach Monica's is certifying not only the ketogenic lifestyle,
Mhm.
but now the carnivore because that is just as important and is changing a
Yeah.
lot of people's lives
Yeah.
as well. So go
Exactly.
check that out if you are interested in being a coach or even coaching for Coach Monica,
Yeah.
being
Yeah.
a part of our
We're
team.
really picky choosy.
Very
Picky
picky.
choosy. We want somebody with the same mission. But yeah,
Yes.
if you want to change lives and change a career, be prepared. I just wanted to go into it part time and I was overwhelmed with clients. And so it's full time. You want to change careers and you want to change people's lives. Yeah. Go
This is
get your
it.
certification.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
We'll see you next Tuesday. Everybody have a great day.
Yes. Bye.
Hey, it's Coach Monica here. Guess what? If you're fed up with feeling stuck in your battle with weight or food, I've got something just for you. Check out our free Facebook groups. Over at Food Addiction and Recovery, I'm over there waiting for you. We're going to walk this journey together. It's about getting real, sharing our stories, and lifting each other up. We're in this together every step of the way. And if you're curious about changing your life with keto, the Weight Loss Project is where you want to be. Coach Darcy is amazing. And together, we're not just talking about losing weight. We're talking about finding a happier, healthier you. So, what do you say? Are you ready to join us? The links are in the show notes below, and I'm telling you, this is more than an invite. It is the start of something great. We cannot wait to see you over there.